Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, October 1st. Welcome to a new month, 5:25 a.m. Central Time. Grain markets are mixed this morning. December corn futures down 1 at 423 and 3/4. November soybeans down 7 1/4 at 1049 and 3/4. December Chicago wheat up 1 at 585. December Kansas City wheat up 1 1/4 at 585. December spring wheat is up 2.5 at 624 1/4. Let's start off with yesterday's report.
So corn futures rallied on Monday following a friendly report from the USDA. The government pegged September 1st U.S. corn stocks at 1.76 billion bushels, 52 million bushels below USDA's most recent estimate of the old crop carryout. The change is mainly due to greater feed and residual usage, as USDA left its estimate of the 2023 crop mostly unchanged. Soybean stocks were within 2 million bushels of USDA's most recent estimate and were considered a non-event. Wheat stocks fell within 13 million bushels of the average trade guess, a small miss. There were no surprises in the U.S. wheat production estimates.
No big adjustment to last year's U.S. corn crop, and that I guess is not surprising, but it's nice to see that they didn't mess it up too bad. The change here came via feed and residual use for old crop, and 52 million bushels. Is that substantial? I think it could be. So what this is going to do in effect, we've got another report next week. It's going to take, if you leave all else unchanged, it's going to take your new crop carryout estimate from 2.057 billion down to something closer to 2 billion even. The fact that USDA admitted that they missed feed and residual by 50 million perhaps bodes well for feed and residual this year. What if they're a little bit too low with their feed and residual number projection for this current marketing year that just started a month ago? That's, of course, how you would get your carryout for new crop down below 2 billion bushels. And that would be a big like sentiment thing. If you were to just see a 1 in that column instead of a 2 with the carryout, it would be very helpful with regard to sentiment. Corn futures acted well yesterday. We rallied. These corn futures traded up to some technical stuff that we had in our charts and then kind of backed off a little bit, but they're held together fairly well here this morning. Really nothing to write home about with soybeans. So relative to the previous estimate of old crop ending stocks, they were off by 2 million bushels. That was the change. So nothing of consequence there. The trade did very well with regard to wheat. So they missed the stocks by 13 million bushels, which is not substantial. And then when you look at the wheat production estimates, all wheat, winter wheat, HRW, SRW, white winter, spring wheat, durum, the trade really did very well in projecting the production numbers. They were off by just a couple million bushels pretty much across the board. So the surprise yesterday undoubtedly was in corn. It was positive. Is it positive enough to post us another leg higher in the market? I don't know, but definitely some friendly news.
U.S. East Coast and Gulf Coast dockworkers began a strike overnight. The International Longshoremen's Association and the US Maritime Alliance failed to reach an agreement prior to a midnight deadline. It's estimated that the strike could cost the U.S. economy $540 million per day. A strike would affect the container shipments from 36 ports from Maine to Texas. According to the USDA, containers transport around 10% of grain exports, as well as the majority of cotton and meat exports. President Joe Biden is not expected to intervene with the strike.
So this is a container ship thing. Here's an image that I pulled from the internet. So on the left is a container ship. You got a bunch of containers stacked on a ship. On the right, you've got a bulk carrier, and 90% of our exports, corn, soybeans, wheat, whatever, out of the United States go on the bulk carrier, which is on the right. So is this a huge deal for grain exports out of the U.S.? I mean, 10% worth, I guess. I think it's a bigger deal for the broader economy. I know Bloomberg talking about farmers are seeking to export this bumper crop and that the strike's going to be a big deal. I mean, it's somewhat of a deal. But you look at the markets, are you seeing much reaction here? Not in the grain markets really at all. And even if they thought this was more of a broad economy thing, maybe you'd see some pressure in the stock market. Maybe you'd see that sort of thing. So I don't know that the markets are taking this seriously yet. Maybe they should be, but I don't think that they are.
So if you guys have not checked out our premium content, you sure need to do so. Joe, can you tell our viewers why Report Day is a great day to be a premium subscriber?
Yeah, I was working hard sending out content yesterday. So right after the report, I send out a USDA snapshot video. It's a big picture overview that's about 3 minutes long of the report. What happened? What are the high level items? Also had a cash grain marketing review, 2024 corn and soybeans. What have you guys done with regard to this year's corn and soybean crops? What do you have marketed? what's your game plan? In this video, I went through and discussed everything that I've advised, every single sale I've advised, broken down by crop year percentage. I spit out weighted averages. We do spreadsheets. Super simple, easy to follow. There's no options involved. It's all just cash sales and advice that I've put out over the last year or so as it relates to 2024 corn and soybean crops. So if you guys are behind on marketing, maybe you're looking for a different or a more simple approach, this would be very, very good for you. I know you guys are busy, but if you want to sign up for the premium deal, it's super easy to do it on your phone. If you're in the truck or you're in the combine, it takes like 30 seconds to sign up. We do Apple Pay and Google Pay or credit card. It's very simple to do on your phone, and all the info is very easily accessible on a mobile device. It's $50 per month. Cancel at any time. No other fee, no other obligation. Give that deal a shot this morning, guys. I'll forward you a copy of this morning's email, which includes all of yesterday's stuff, all of my cash grain marketing recommendations. Check it out.
Brazilian soybean planting continues to lag behind last year's pace. According to well-followed private group Ag Rural, as of last Thursday, Brazil's soybean planting reached 2% of the total expected area. During the same week last year, 5.2% of the projected soybean acres had been planted. Hot and dry weather is hindering planting across the majority of soybean areas. Ag Rural also reported that as of last Thursday, 30% of the projected acres for Brazil's first corn crop had been planted.
So it's been dry. There's not much rain on the radar this morning. There was a little bit yesterday. The forecast is kind of a mixed bag. So the Euro and GFS just through the next 9 or 10 days kind of differ a little bit. The Euro favors these rains in Mato Grosso, whereas the GFS favors rains more to the east and to the south. But when you look at the extended stuff, the GFS is very wet during the, call it second week of October. And you look at the anomaly forecast, precipitation as a percent of normal, it's actually going to be above normal in some key soybean areas if these forecasts are to be believed. So it looks to me like the rains are coming back, but they've been wrong before. It's very early. I don't know that the trade is overly excited about this. Is it bearish if it rains? Maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit.
Stimulus measures and reduced imports have boosted Chinese corn futures. On Monday, the Dalian Commodity Exchange's most actively traded corn futures surged by 1.9%, the largest one-day gain since January. China has announced several stimulus measures over the last week, including lower interest rates and the easing of home purchase restrictions. The measures have increased investor confidence. Reduced grain imports also sent corn futures higher. Imports are expected to decline further in the fourth quarter as the Chinese government has urged top buyers to reduce purchases.
So maybe some bottoming action. It's too early to say. I mean, you look at this weekly chart of Chinese corn futures and it's still very, very soft. China has purchased next to nothing when it comes to U.S. corn for this current marketing year. They've got a very small amount on the books that I believed was rolled forward from old crop. So I don't know that there's a reason to be concerned here. I mean, yeah, the stimulus helped a little bit, but does this chart lead me to believe that they're short of corn domestically or that they need to up imports or buy a whole bunch from the United States? I don't know that that's the case right now.
U.S. corn harvest is ahead of schedule. The crop was 21% harvested nationally through Sunday compared to 14% last week and 18% on average. States that have harvested 50% of the crop or more include Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. Corn conditions declined slightly to 64% good to excellent nationally. U.S. soybeans were 26% harvested compared to 13% the prior week and 18% on average. States that have harvested 40% of the crop or more include Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Soybean conditions were rated 64% good to excellent nationally, unchanged from the prior week.
So we're moving right along with harvest. I did not put a U.S. weather map in slides this morning, but there is like no rain in the forecast for almost the entire Corn Belt over the next 7 days. So harvest activity will be fast and furious. I know that there were some rains that fell in the Eastern Corn Belt and part of the Central Corn Belt as a result of the hurricane, and those areas could be slowed, of course. But I think for most central and certainly western areas, you're going to see a lot more activity here. What about wheat?
So U.S. winter wheat planting, it's ongoing. The crop is 39% planted nationally compared to 25% the previous week and 38% on average. Analysts had projected planting to be 38% complete. States with 50% or more of the crop planted include Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Washington. USDA estimates that the crop is 14% emerged versus 4% last week and 13% on average.
Same thing there. Unless you're excessively wet, you shouldn't have a problem planting wheat unless you're just way too dry, which may be the case in some areas. But again, the forecast is very dry here for at least 7 days.
U.S. corn shipments were near the upper end of pre-report trade expectations last week. USDA reported that 45 million bushels of corn were inspected for export during the week ending September 26th. The print was down 1% from the previous week, but up 70% compared to the same week last year. Soybean shipments were reported at 25 million bushels. The print was up 36% compared to the prior week, but down slightly versus the same week last year. Wheat shipments were reported at 20 million bushels. The print was down 26% from the previous week, but up 25% versus the same week last year.
These are solid numbers, very solid numbers across the board. You'll start to see soybean shipments tick up here over the next few weeks, as is normal seasonally. And I don't know, I see no problems here right now.
We had a flash sale of soybeans on Monday. U.S. exporters sold 4 million bushels of beans to China for delivery during the current marketing year. U.S. soybean export commitments for the current marketing year are the third worst in the last 10 years.
This is routine business. One thing that I didn't mention with the shipments is that the river levels are basically back to normal and are expected to stay there largely, which is a big positive. The last thing we needed was, these super low river levels, and some of those hurricane related rains probably helped with that. What did cattle do yesterday?
Cattle futures were mixed. Live cattle were up 2 cents to 72 cents higher. Feeders ranged from $1.27 lower to 80 cents lower. Box beef was higher on Monday. Choice ended the day at $298.08. That was up $1.39. Select ended the day at $284.53. That was up $2.45.
Outside market's pretty quiet this morning. U.S. dollars up just a little bit. Stocks are off just marginally. Bonds are up almost a full handle. Gold's up $10. Crude oil is down 30 cents, and the November WTI at 67.85 last trade. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.